so fascinating. And what's really handy is, even though I currently have the controls, because this is Notion, as long as you click where you are currently reading or intending to go, I will see. Look at him. Look, right. Get ready, everyone. Get ready. Here he comes. Here he comes. And where is he? There he is. There's Matt.
Yeah, please disregard that my icon in Notion is Mike's to class lying down.
Yeah.
That has nothing to do with how I feel. Not at all.
Yeah, so, right. Doc. I think every game designer should start with Daniel Pink's book, Drive. Too many people rely on operant conditioning to motivate players, and it makes players become toxic, which developers would know if they studied the effects of psychological conditioning as a motivator. This is where we get into the fun stuff where turns out the more you just try to crank people's, basically just game how the brain works and essentially start running social experiments on people. Well, the more that you try to design from that sort of perspective, instead of just designing from a more first principles, what is the best way to deliver the cool fantasy that I'm trying to deliver to a player, then you can really get yourself in a pickle. And MMOs. It is one of the genres that I think really does fall foul of this. So let's fucking go, my man. This is going to be fun. Undermining children's intrinsic interest with extrinsic reward, a test of the overjustification hypothesis. Now, of course, you put in here the big disclaimer. This is one study taken in isolation from 1973 on a whim. So not to take from gospel, but it's a framework for us to have a fun discussion, talk about some things that we do think people feel within games. And I believe there's a book that you're going to be looking into over the next week as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, so for a little bit of flavor on this is literally something I picked up in just a Twitter thread. Just someone that I followed retweeted some game dev talk. And I was like, okay, that's interesting. Operant conditioning. Okay, I've seen, as someone in the MMO space, I've seen how it's gone wrong. I've seen how it can go wrong. I've seen how these games go completely tits up by going, if you look at mobile games, they don't want you to play the game. They want you to be trapped in their Skinner box.
Archero. Remember fucking Archero, man?
Yep. Very sadly, I do.
Here's the thing with Archero. Well-designed game, then made evil to crank money out of it.
Yeah. So
looking at you, Archero.
Yeah, so this is something that I've been thinking deeply about in terms of specifically World of Warcraft, but this is stuff that other MMOs run into the problems with all the time. I mean, specifically, there's examples of where FF goes really wrong in this aspect. It works for them to an extent, so obviously this is a stick that you can use, but you have to use it correctly. You can't just beat everything with the same stick. But yeah, Skinner boxes are a very interesting one. So, yep.
Let's roll.
Yeah. So let's start. Where do we start? Okay. So the overjustification hypothesis is the proposition that a person's intrinsic interest in an activity may be decreased by inducing him to engage in that activity as an explicit means to some extrinsic goal. Which that's in layman's terms, it means if you make someone do something by dangling the carrot, even if they like that thing, they will no longer like that thing in future quite as much, or not like so much. They won't want to do it as much because they are now expecting a carrot.
Yeah, imagine a little bit of what happens. You're let's just say you're Valve. You've got Counter-Strike. You put a battle pass in the game, and over time, you train players to play, to upgrade the battle pass and get battle pass rewards. Well, you're going to have to keep on making better and better and better, more engaging battle passes. And then if you were to take that battle pass away, you've trained people to play for the battle pass. Whereas, of course, as we all know from Counter-Strike, an enduring game, people play Counter-Strike because it's Counter-Strike.
Yeah.
They play it for Counter-Strike.
Yep.
I'd maybe say that one way where this, an example is, say, like if you've got like a StarCraft 2, where, you're playing to make a number go up. That number's your ladder ranking. Yeah. And there's like a way more direct correlation there. And I feel like that's something where you can just keep on going forever with something like that versus it being hyper extrinsic all the time. So this is fun to get into. And of course, extrinsic goals, that's the name of the game with MMOs in so many ways.
Yeah, I mean, to put it very, very clearly, like this can extend where it's a small thing where the overjustification can be small and not a massive problem, but hit end level on any job or any class in an MMO, hit max level, and you're like, oh, what number should I make go up next?
Mm-hmm.
Which usually leads to another train, but it does stop you in your tracks. Oh, well, what do I do now? I've played that for the goal. Shit, well, I'm not going to go kill a load of mobs out in the middle of nowhere because I like playing the job. You're going to want to do it for a reason, which is the problem with MMOs in general, but...
Yeah, some of this is actually a large part of why we're focusing on narrative games.
Yep.
Because I kind of want to get away from, everything being reward loops.
Yeah. Yep. So in this particular instance, this study, they went, okay, so we've got, well, I'll use their words and I try to make it make more sense, but children showing intrinsic interest in a target activity during baseline observations were exposed to one of three conditions. In the expected award condition, subjects agreed to engage in the target activity to obtain an extrinsic reward. In the unexpected award, they had no knowledge but were rewarded afterwards. And in the no award condition, they didn't expect or receive a reward. So you can kind of see the video game principle there of you go in for big XP. So it says on the front of the thing you're doing, big XP, come inside, have fun.
Yes.
You go get big XP. That's the expected reward. The unexpected reward is it doesn't say you go in because you think it looks cool and then you get a big XP. Go, oh shit, that was nice. And the other one is just doesn't say don't get anything.
Mm-hmm.
So that was
you can do.
Yep. So that was what they were doing there. And then the results, unsurprisingly, showed support for it. Where they went, what we suspect that training these kids to expect an award for an activity they were doing they liked doing and were doing for no award, training them to expect an award will reduce how much they want to do it without the carrot hanging in front of them.
Yeah. And
they were correct. And it's actually fairly substantial how different it is. We're talking about half.
Yeah, well, let's just say a kid enjoys playing with their army men.
Yep.
Or something, and if they play with their army men and make a cool little story in their head, they get a piece. They're just doing that for fun anyway.
Yeah.
But then it's like if they do that and they come up with a cool enough little story, now it's like, oh, you know what? You really played with your army men in an inventive way.
Yeah.
Here's a little piece of chocolate.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a reward, kid.
Yep.
And if you kept going and going and going and going, and the kid's like, oh yeah, I gotta play with my army man. I'll make a more big story, and I'll get a bigger piece of chocolate in the end.
Yep.
And then the adult's like, oh yeah, well, sorry kid, I can't just keep on giving you chocolate forever. So go enjoy your army man. Kid's gonna be like,
no,
where's my chocolate?
Yep.
That they've now gotten away from the base reason why they enjoyed doing the thing, because their cognitive sort of reward loop was can't get us a bit of chocolate at the end.
Yeah. So
it's not a literal study or anything, but it's an example. You can think of this in terms of MMOs and gearing and rewards, etc.
Yeah,
pretty big.
Yeah, so it's fun seeing a lot of people with their own ideas behind it in chat, because I think people do feel it a lot of the times. Like there's it helps when you like the activity outside of any reward. Technically speaking, for the overjustification effect, I believe it makes it worse. In that, if you don't like something and do it for a reward, there'll be no change because you didn't like doing it, so it doesn't matter. You'll happily do it for the reward. But if you like it, then if you're intrinsically going to do it, then it will change that switch in your head, where this is no longer fun activity, it's now activity for reward. Whereas not fun activity is always going to be activity for reward.
Yeah, exactly. So it's basically that all of that space that is the intrinsic reason why I want to do that. Mm-hmm. It's like the extrinsic reason kind of muscles in, takes up that space, pushes the intrinsic out. Mm-hmm. And then when that extrinsic is removed, it's not like the intrinsic just pops back up, because you're used to getting the extrinsic. Mm-hmm. So it's basically a way of you can juice up engagement via extrinsic rewards, but then that's a dangerous game to play.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, there's one of the kind of spoilers, but Nezra says MSQ dillies in a nutshell. No vet would run them without the EXP gain, even if the byproduct reward is helping spreads. Yeah, that's the thing. That's one of what I'm going to say is a good example of it, because no one's going to find that fun. So you have to extrinsically motivate people. But to continue with the study stuff is, and this is just a bit of research, but it's all based on the self-perception theory, which is the idea that people basically, infer their own behavior and its meaning. They kind of externalize it, where they don't go, well, I want to do a thing, I'll do the thing. They kind of, in retrospect, go, why did I do that thing? Obviously, I did that thing. And this is not like an active process. A lot of the time, it's just sort of, just a thing that happens.
Background process.
But you go, so you go to work and you do the thing for work and you get paid. You justify it to yourself that you're doing this for pay. You're doing this for money. So then you're not going to do that thing without money. But that's the thing. It's it's literally, there's some psychological disagreement on this effect because it's a little bit under scrutiny, because you can't really scientifically prove theories that are this sort of, I guess, in-depth about psychology without substantial amounts of work. So it is the idea where if someone sees external contingencies controlling behavior that they understand will explain it, then they go, oh, well, that's obvious. That must be it.
Yeah.
But if they don't think that's it, if they don't see or notice the rewards, then they'll go, oh, it must be me enjoying it. And that's going forward. And it doesn't sound right. It sounds completely insane because obviously you know what you like.
Oh, it's just a thing. You are less aware of what makes you tick than really what seems to make you tick. In so many cases, I do think that is the case. It's so easy to be strung along in your patterns of behavior and thought by other things. I'd almost just say, look what Twitter does to people's minds.
Yeah,
They probably a whole bunch of the time think, no, this is what I'm doing, and I know I'm doing it because. And then maybe if that person 5 years in the future ended up changing their behavior and then looked back, they would have a different perception than their perception at the time.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely.
I think whenever people, they make excuses for why they keep on playing the same game or something like that over time, and then they end up making a clean break from that game, and then they reevaluate their past behavior and they're like, oh, I maybe wasn't doing what I thought I was doing at the time. Huh, interesting.
Yep. Yeah, which is where based on their words, if external contingencies are not perceived, or if they're unclear, invisible, or insufficient, then they'll say it's their own interest, which is where this really sneaky stuff comes in, where you're going, oh, okay, well, if this actually is probably nicely considered by the idea of them being unclear and invisible. So the way you play a mobile game, or even you play any sort of modernly designed game for those purposes, and it's just bing, bing, wahoo the whole way.
Bing, bing, wahoo.
It's big lights, it's big sounds, it's happy. Yeah, this really feels good. It's all those really sort of insidious ways of going, oh, but you're never going to think back to opening an Overwatch loot box and go, oh yeah, I actually enjoyed that experience because the animation of the loot box was very nice. So few people are going to think that, but that's how they go, well, I must like it. I don't understand why I like it because it's unclear, but it's not like a conscious process. So it's really interesting to look at that and then think of that in future for how things actually kind of go this. And you're right, Albert, do need to take this with a grain of salt. It's one angle, and I hope to follow it up in future with other angles. But
there's a book you're
going
to be getting into soon.
Yep. So it's the idea of in short, a person induced to undertake an inherently desirable activity as a means to some ulterior should cease to see the activity as an end in itself, which is exactly what I think happens to. There's another example of Trials in FF, where Trials in FF slap. They're really fun. They're just fantastic in every way. But you're going down the duty roulette, and you're like, that one's loads of XP. That one doesn't have loads of XP. I won't do that. So you don't do the fun things. It doesn't reward you.
Yeah.
But in a world where you wanted purely fun, that would be an option. So it's to go through the study a little bit quick is the idea of the methodology they used. And basically they had 3 categories: reward, unexpected reward, no reward. And that reward was, just to make it clear, it was a good player award where they're being all nice to the kid and going, you did a great job. Put your name on the honor roll. Here's a reward. We're going to celebrate you in your school, etc., etc. And what they did was, it was basically drawing, right? So they found kids that were they didn't just find them in the street, They studied school kids and stuff. Went, okay, the ones that like drawing the most? We'll watch them and see. So those couple, I think the numbers they went with were 40, 50 or so, they like drawing the most. They will gravitate to it of their own accord, which, if you can think about this in video games, obviously that's the case for gamers. They like video games, so they're going to play them.
Yeah.
So this is where I think this study is really important for like the gaming perspective, because it's not like, you could look at all the work studies all day long, but if people don't like work, they don't like it. If someone's going down the mines or working in a factory, they're not going to like it by design. That's kind of the point of gamers. It's like, yeah, we want to play this shit. We would play this all day long. But then you introduce rewards. Do they continue to play? So the results they actually had from that was this is the mean percentage of free choice time that subjects chose to play with a target activity by treatments, and this is like post. This is, you've done the reward. How much of your time do you spend drawing?
Yeah.
For the kids that were told to draw for an award, 8.5% of the time, 8.59%. For the ones with no award, 16.73%.
Purely intrinsic.
Yep. And then the unexpected reward was actually higher at 18.09%. So the ones that they basically, in this case with kids just drawing, they proved, they supported the overjustification effect, which is just the idea of, there's like 3 different psychological things, right? There's I was doing that for a reward. I'm not going to do that again.
Unless I get the thing I want.
Yeah. For most of them, not all of them. Then there was I was doing that for fun, so I'll just continue doing it for fun. It's fun. Nothing's changed. But the one that actually changed for the better, and I think this is where it would be difficult to get into games, but I've got a little idea of how they maybe tried before, and maybe it didn't work out so well, but the unexpected reward being better. So you go, I did that was fun, and also I got a reward. Sweet. That's, obviously you can see how that would be beneficial because it wasn't expected. But it's about the framing. It's about the internal framing because of the self-perception theory. The idea there is you justify your own behavior. If you like doing something, you like doing it. If there's a reward for doing it, you do it for the reward. That is basically how simple it is overall. Mm. And it just, they completely suggested here. It sounds like the World of Warcraft loot grind. Does it? Might be onto something there. Might be onto something. So, children interested, fun activity. The people who were rewarded, who knew they were getting a reward, then did it half as much. If you're not looking at that as a game developer and going, especially someone like, if you're not looking at that from the World of Warcraft perspective, or from any game developer who's going, well, how do we reward players? How do we get the reward loop going? Then you really might need to rethink. You look at that and go, oh, half playtime. Shit. Mm-hmm. Shit. Bad. Whoops. Yeah. So, basically my point is that gamification strategies should be extremely carefully used when players already enjoy the activity.
Yeah.
Because that's what happened. Remember when you used to go into a World of Warcraft dungeon? It was fun.
Yeah.
You used to log in and go, what fun activity will I do today? Maybe I'll go for a raid. Maybe I'll go do some dungeons. Maybe I'll go on an adventure across the world. When's the last time the World of Warcraft community, as a community, did that? Mm-mm. It's clearly on the way out, largely speaking. And that's resulted in this self-fulfilling loop where the only thing they know to do is reward people better. So it is, it's effectively, it's like getting used to a medication. They're creating the video game equivalent of MRSA. If you kind of follow me a little bit, but it's that concept of we need stronger rewards to get these disassociated, disaffected players to enjoy it because they don't enjoy the activity anymore.
Yeah.
So it gets worse and worse and worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And yep, this is why it all became gambling. This is why loot boxes exists, all in capital letters. That's basically it.
That's it.
That is one data point to suggest that. One study from 1973. But also, and this is something that I'm going to continue to research into, because if I skin down to the bottom there, just to show what I'm going to do next, which is drive the surprising truth of what motivates us. This is a reward creep is the perfect thing to say about it. reward creep. That's what it is. So, a 1949 experiment found that monkeys would be happy to solve physical puzzles without any extrinsic motivation. They just did it. Monkey, puzzle. Monkey's like, I'm not fucking doing anything. What's that? Oh, what's going on here? Oh, that was class. All right. New puzzle. I'll continue that. They were happy for it. Then they went, well, what if we give them some, some reasons for doing a good job? They did it. They performed significantly worse. But the thing I want to get across here with this is the person who, I can't remember his name. I think it was Hard, maybe. The person who performed the study went around the psychological community I think this was around the 80s or so, and was lambasted everywhere he went because he truly believed in this idea that humans were intrinsically motivated, and well, primates, including humans, were intrinsically motivated, and he got laughed at. He got into fights with other people in the community. He got fired from a business school for daring to suggest that people maybe want to do things that are fun as opposed to work for more money. And it seems to be that is the exact same, the same thing is perpetuated. Because if it went from the 40s to the 80s in that way, you could see that currently looking at, basically anything in gamification and game design, you can see, even though people do talk the overjustification effect, you can see it's leaning one way when data out there supports that there is intrinsic stuff. So you've got this massive problem of it's just getting worse. Games are focusing on extrinsic rewards because it's the only thing that works, and it's in the psychological literature as far as they're concerned.
And then what's interesting is if it's extrinsic and predictable, that can strong arm out the intrinsic.
Yep.
But if it's extrinsic and unpredictable, then you get your big happy bing bing wahoo.
Yep.
And that is why you see things sort of turn into gambling. Now, there are some things to say, like, generally speaking, big replication crisis is a thing, especially in social scientists, or not social scientists, social science studies.
Yeah.
There are things like p-hacking, which, there's all of that going on. A large number of such studies do, like struggle with replication and stuff like that. So that's a thing. Overjustification effect is decently studied. There's absolutely more, there is more reading to be done.
Yeah.
I think a lot of us can feel what is going on in here. And I think it's, it's interesting as you think about the likes of Titan Forging, and then you maybe think about, say, like a Choregast.
Yeah.
Where, with Choregast, there is a world where that could be big intrinsic fun. I think it would probably have to be better.
Yeah.
In terms of some design aspects. But then if you just train people to go there for your ash and your cinders, we see exactly what happens. Everyone starts saying, oh, Choregast.
Yeah.
I think what's interesting to me, though, is you can have your big sort of, your big gamble, right? We see it's not the biggest, if you look at N there, it's not the biggest study in the universe.
Yeah.
But you do see unexpected reward does pretty well. I think what I'm interested in is there's clearly a threshold on unexpected reward.
Yeah.
And it's perhaps the sort of thing where really everything is multifactorial. So this is one cognitive thing that I think, given the way the industry is going, we can probably say there is something to this. There's a reason why it's the done thing in video games.
Yep.
Right? But there does seem to be a little bit of a breaking point when it comes to the unexpected award. And it could be the unexpected award is more of a psychological thing that works for your goopy gamer brain and, just makes you want to do the thing. But then if that ends up causing negative externalities in the rest of the game, then maybe those negatives can overcome this. And then maybe that's when you get to a situation like with Titan Forging, where as time goes on, and I remember we had this little discussion earlier, with Titan Forging, it's unexpected, it's fun, it's exciting, Oh, I was leveling up and I got a bonus proc, I got an epic bit of leveling gear, and, it's all your... But then what happens is Titan Forging becomes an expected thing for you, and then you're pissed off when you don't get it, and maybe that's why you see the likes of Titan Forging being more successful at the start, and then people getting more and more and more tired of it when Titan Forging ends up feeling like an expected thing for people because they get so used to it because, you know, the unexpected award, if evenly applied over time, becomes no longer unexpected. It just then becomes the expected award. But if it's an expected award that then has a number of other negative externalities with the game, then perhaps that's why you see that, you know, yeah, it's successful while it's unexpected.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, like, because I have a little segment here prepared on what it means for MMOs, and my theory overall is they need to balance justification with over-justification, because obviously over means too much. And I think that's where the kind of key comes from here, where it goes from, as an example, I would say the leveling roulette and main scenario roulette, those in FF14, do a good job, because that's an expected reward for an activity that isn't intrinsically valuable. So that is, you know, basic psychology. That is getting paid for work. Like, that's getting paid to show up for a shift.
Yeah,
that's how it works.
That shift is helping sprouts,
Yeah.
filling up the queue.
Yep.
You know, you're basically providing a work. You know, you're basically providing your labor to ensure that sprouts can do Praetorium, and the developers clearly know that too. And you feel like you're being decently compensated for your time.
Yep.
Which is why, even though Praetorium may have a few more issues than Castrum does, people generally want to get Praetorium because it's a well-justified award for the time spent.
Yeah, and that is that's why the FF14 gearing system, which is, you know, basically just a copy-paste of Justice and Valor, works, because you go to work, you get the reward you expect. There's a little bit of the sort of intrinsic, extrinsic stuff there, where you're just kind of doing a dungeon that's maybe you're doing it for the 100th time, something like that, where it just kind of works.
And if it's the 100th time, well, the intrinsic's almost certainly not going to be there anyway.
Yeah, but then obviously you brought up Titan Forging, going, you know, it was a fun activity for reward. Well, it's supposed to be, but it's not one that arrived, because unexpected became expected. So that's just the idea of, like, World of Warcraft is clearly, obviously using this, because you extrinsically do things. But if everything is extrinsically rewarded, even the things that players like to do, if you don't identify what should have no reward, then no one will log into your game for anything except an award.
When I think about this study, and see, I don't know if this is the sort of thing that it would even pass an ethics board over time.
Yeah.
I would like to see what would happen if a study like this, which, number one, you know, let's think about p-values and those things. Yeah. Yes. And we look at N here. Let's try to get something that's got more study participants. Yep. But I'd be interested in seeing what happens to all of these percentages if you try to measure them over time periods.
That'd be interesting.
What happens when the unexpected award category, you know, does it go up like this and then go down? Because if you think it's, you know, just saying, oh yeah, kid, good job. Good job, you know, you go on the honor roll. How many times can the kid be unexpectedly awarded in a similar-ish manner before it then becomes expected, and then you get to see that percentage decrease over time in that particular cohort of the study?
Yep,
that's what I'd love to see. And maybe World of Warcraft ran that study, and maybe the developers saw the mounting player feedback, but also saw that their numbers, they weren't really getting as much out of the Titan Forging as they previously were. Yeah. Maybe I'm not saying they did. Maybe they saw something like that. But that's what I'd be interested in, because on the face of it, this just says gambling, 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 bing, bing, wahoo, it works.
Yep.
But well, we need to think about, you know, what people ended up thinking about Titan Forging. You know, is that because of the negative externalities of Titan Forging as a successful unexpected award? Is it that? Or is it because Titan Forging itself inherently shifted from unexpected to expected and therefore fell foul of all of the things with the expected here? In which case you're then going to think, well, if it's going to be an expected award anyway, shall we try to go with the one that has fewer negative externalities? In which case you then start to have an argument for deterministic gearing over sort of a Titan Forging super unexpected version of gearing. If the Titan Forging is going to end up being, if you run it over time, similarly ineffective, but with externalities that don't work for people. And that said, there are some positive things for that for players who don't have access to the big hard content to really get the big new gear. But you can see it's a complex issue. We can't just sort of say, oh, overjustification effect, done.
Yeah.
This is all very complex stuff.
Yeah, almost certainly. But it's like, I feel like there is certainly a correction that needs made overall. I mean, I quite like what, who was it said it? Yeah, it was Yanni Fiona said, perhaps rewarding gameplay with more gameplay. I mean, I feel like that's sort of what you want to sort of do a little bit, maybe. Maybe that's still falling under the idea of reward. But it's just, I feel like the entire industry has looked at rewards and psychological rewards as a shortcut for intrinsic fun gameplay.
Yeah.
Because, what's, I don't remember the last time I played a video game purely for fun. Actually, no, that's a lie. I do. I remember the last time I played a video game purely for fun, and there was no other bit in my head going, oh, I'll do it for this reason, do it for this reason. And I shit you not, it was the Need for Speed Hot Pursuit Remaster.
Whoa.
Because I have this idea in my head of every now and again, sometimes it happens when I listen to Eurobeat, sometimes it just happens in general. But I'll just be like, yeah, drifting down that mountain pass at full speed would be sick. And I go do it. Like, even, when's the last time nothing else influenced your desire to play a game? No. Should I? I should probably play that. Yeah, I bought that. I should play that. Or, I guess I should get my dailies done. Or, I need some XP. Or I need to level.
I feel that's been most of my game playing recently.
Yeah.
There's like playing Final Fantasy 14 at my own pace. Because I'm enjoying the story and stuff like that. And I mean, IRL definitely got in the way recently.
Yep.
More later. That's one example. I recently hopped back into Halo 5 for really no reason, but I did anyway, and it was fun. Splitgate. I am playing Splitgate across multiple, platforms. There's no cross progression. I do not give a flying fuck about any of the cosmetics.
Yeah.
The fun I've been having in Splitgate is the mastery loop of the portal system while also trying to sort of use a gun when on a gamepad.
Yep.
Because, good God, I'm used to playing it on this thing here with a mouse and keyboard, and then I end up just, playing it with a controller and making a tit of myself. A lot of RTS games.
Yep.
A lot of RTS games. I mean, when I was a kid, I'd play Age of Empires 2, just again and again and again and again versus the AI, because it was intrinsic.
Yep.
A lot of the other RTS games that I play, like, I don't know, that's how it feels. I've been doing a lot more stuff on console lately. Deathloop. I just hopped into that because I was like, oh, that seems like a neat concept, fun.
Yep.
And like in games, I don't give a fuck about achievements. I've never given a fuck about achievements. I purely am just, I have so little free time. I don't feel like I want to do, super big virtual work. So I'm going to focus on the unique experience. And, that's why I think for me, there's aspects of modern WoW where it feels like so much of their work has went into the reward loop of the game and the reward systems of the game that for me personally, what I'm really going to want is more different, unique gameplay with a unique fantasy. Yeah. I don't want to just, like, let's just say there's a new mount coming out, okay? Like the Netherwing. You could say that I'd be doing the Netherwing stuff for, the Extrinsic Reward. And I would be for a little bit. For like a bit of the equation is that. Absolutely. But I guess it's over justification. So I'd feel the mount would be good justification for things like flying around in circles when I'm a kid getting the eggs. But another part of that was that I thought the fantasy was pretty cool. I thought me being like an orc in disguise was pretty cool. There's the bit where you get to meet Illidan, and it's like, that was all really strong. Now, for me, that is so night and day to doing a whole bunch of shit for a Paragon box.
Yeah.
Where, I mean, the content is not intrinsically fun for any of those Paragon box reps. Let's be real.
Of course it's not.
It ain't. And with that not being there, if there was an expected result, I'd feel like I'd do that, and I understand the whole unexpected result thing, but I think just because the unexpected thing is not for me unexpected, if I try to analyze my own behavior there, I know that a Paragon box is a certain percentage chance of getting a thing. It's all very, very predictable to me.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore I'm like, okay, the drop rate's like that. Is it, okay, no, it's actually not worth my time to engage in that work to get that reward.
Yeah.
Especially because a lot of those Paragon boxes, for me, there's not a lot of like cool intrinsic like fantasy to doing that, and I'm very much an experience and fantasy driven player in games. It's why, like, for Diablo 3, I'd be a tourist. I would want to push up the higher difficulty modes because I'd find the gameplay to be fun. But you see, when it comes to just like doing the same thing again and again and again and again, gone.
Yep. Same.
Because for me, the intrinsic, it's like the intrinsic sort of goes over time as I kind of re-experience the same thing. It's like, okay, I'll go do some greater rifts for a bit. And oh, yeah, this is a cool little system. I'm pushing and pushing and pushing. But for me, always pretty quickly, it's like, okay, well, I think I've seen what I really need to see here. And that's it for me.
Yep.
And that's just me being a very, very different player to, some of the players who are, maybe driven for different reasons than me, who will just, like our friend Dickie.
Mm-hmm. Yep, he loves that loop. He loves it.
Yep, absolutely. Hooks into his brain cage.
Yep, it's. I think both of us are more content and experience driven players.
Totally.
I think versus anything else, and I think there's a.
It's actually something I like about Sony.
Yeah.
Something I like about Sony first parties. I feel very intrinsically motivated about them because they're. Yeah. That's it. They're like, hello there, Mr. Gamer. We have put all the money in the universe into making something that will be intrinsically satisfying. And if you want to be a big trophy boy and do all of those things, I think for most people, it's like they play the game as far as they are very intrinsically motivated. And maybe if there's like a few more trophies to get, a few more things to do, then it's like, oh, well, I could complete the bar by just grinding that out. You know what? Sure, it'd be cool to have the platinum.
That has been like this.
That's how the trophy, it's like not a replacement, it's like an extender.
Yeah, that is where I think some trophy design's really, really good. And I think that's where I've been getting a lot of platinum trophies in games recently, because it's been that, oh, here's a little bit of extrinsic motivation to finish the bits of the game that are a bit more boring that I've already seen, but will be at least vaguely kind of there. So there's a mixture of intrinsic of I want to see what there is left to squeeze out of the game, but also the extrinsic, I'll get the big shiny, and then I can mark it off my head as done, finished.
Exactly. Like, for example, like in our game, again, I'm not going to go into specifics, but obviously it's a game that's going to be in Steam. We are going to implement achievements, yes. And it's a narrative game, which means, you'll get to the ending via a different path. You will get a different ending based on what you do. In my head, any sort of achievement or trophy thing, that would be used to sort of help inform the player.
Yeah.
You could make a different choice there, and it would definitely have a different, a different impact on the story, or, what character lives or what character dies. So we'd be more using that as a way to signpost more intrinsic value that you can access beyond your first playthrough.
Yep.
Now, for some people, they, would very much just be like, well, I'm going to get all the achievements because I really like achievements and Steam trading cards and all of that. But that's at least how I feel about that kind of thing. Yeah, word of the day, intrinsic. Yeah, word of the day last time was pragmatic. Now it's intrinsic for today.
Yeah. At least
we'll choose a word for every stream.
Yeah, well, you know what? At least we've got some pretty decent vocabulary going on. Absolutely. But it was funny that you said earlier about a split gate and it being the mastery loop, because I do realize we probably want to get going at some point soon or finish up stream a little bit. So I think I can wrap this up
fairly. It's probably our final one here.
Yeah, I can wrap this up fairly nicely by bringing us back to what might be up next week if I have the time to read it, and among everything else we're trying to do, which is Drive, the surprising truth about what motivates us. Because you were saying the mastery loop. This book, it's a little bit old, 2009. Oh my god, old. Anyway, yes, a little bit old, 2009, and the argument it has a lot of references to studies, which I'll obviously follow up on and stuff. But the idea is that aspects of the largely intrinsic human motivation can be divided into autonomy, mastery, and purpose. As in, you're going to do it yourself, you want to get better at it, and there's a reason to do it that's larger than just any singular reward.
Oh, that's why I do this job in games and Yeah, no, that's why I do things. Yeah.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I do things. Why I kind of don't give a fuck about money.
Mm-hmm.
I just see money as a resource to be deployed to make cool shit because, I mean, frankly, you don't take it with you, do you?
Yep.
You know, when you pop your clogs, that's it. Doesn't matter how much is in the account. I mean, it does to your family, and it would be nice if you could leave something behind that's good. But, you know, for all those people who are like, I must have the big Ferrari.
Big money.
And, you know, all of that, it's like, well, don't over-justify your entire meaning for, you know, all of that. You'll be a bit miserable.
Yeah, so that's basically what I wanted to say with this segment is... First of all, kind of a look at MMO design, but also I think there's a world where people can engage substantially with themselves and with games a little bit healthier by kind of understanding concepts. So the results of this study are less important than the idea of the self-perception theory, which is examine why you're doing something, think about it deeply. Because God only knows the people who want you to do things are thinking about it as well. And maybe that's why we are where we are. So.
We should all deeply interrogate why we actually do things and think, you know, it's like one way I like to think about it is think about your cognitive diet. Yeah. All the things that you put into your body as like your literal food diet. Those things can change. You know, change bits of you. I mean, there's all of those things linked between like the gut microbiome and like all the vagus nerve shit, and there's a lot more research to be done there, but it all seems to be quite interesting. But in a way, you've got a cognitive diet, you know? You'll think about even your social diet, all the people you hang around with, you'll become a little bit more like them. Your cognitive diet, you know, what are all the things you're pumping in to yourself? And if you're, you know, if you wake up in the morning and read all of the breaking news, get really stressed, kind of like spend all your time in twitter.com and all of those things. And I'm not doing this as a break for, you know, as a hit at people, because it does get everybody. And all of these companies are deploying, you know, vast armies of psychology people and data scientists to work out how to actually get your attention, you know? Like even the whole thing of the infinite scrolling and the, you know, pull down to refresh, like literally mimicking a slot machine, because that shit actually is super well studied and works. That's all vying for your attention. Yep. Right? Trying to in the same way, there's all this shit that just makes food basically friggin' addictive. I mean, you start the thing of Pringles, you ain't stopping. It's like that happens with all of the things that sort of demand your cognitive appetite. And you only have so much cognitive appetite. You know, it's also strong arms you in, and then it's just going to sort of change how you think about things, you know, what you do. And, so I think a lot of it's just about... again, it always comes back to the damn Pandaren saying slow down, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yep. There's a reason Mists of Pandaria was the best expansion World of Warcraft ever had. And that's some part of it, maybe.
That's it.
Some part of it, yeah. So...
Yeah, I mean, there's Banana Stand. I just ate a whole can of sour cream and onion Pringles. Yeah, I mean, fucking hell, if I, back in the day when because it's a rule, I don't buy them anymore. I used to get that Tato Craft. Oh man, the Tato Craft salt and vinegar. You eat a whole bag. Would you even care that your tongue literally feels like it has been physically damaged by near the end of that bag? You just keep on going.
Yep.
And then it's like, man, what's going on?
Yeah.
And it's like all that shit, you do it, then you instantly regret it, and then the fucking next day you go to the shop and repeat the same mistake again. You're like, what? Yep. What's going on? Why am I doing this?
Yeah, it's because the people designing products have looked at all of these studies and understand why you're doing what you're doing. So
yeah,
understand what you're doing to fight back, and then maybe you'll sit down with the video game and go, damn, that was fun, as opposed to whatever you feel whenever you...
Bing, bing, wahoo!
Yeah, as opposed to whatever you feel whenever you log out of a... what do you call it? Whenever you log out of an MMO and go, was that it? Not to say there's anything wrong with them, just that there is a balance to be struck between those rewards, and there's a part where that can fit beautifully into things, but...
Yeah, and it's just worth thinking about for all designers of games, and I think especially for designers of MMOs, because it's really easy to fall into that trap. And it's easy to fall into that trap, like, accidentally, without knowing. So, this is not a thing of, like, casting blame at them. It's a thing of, oh, shit, this is a really hard problem to solve. And maybe you think about some future MMOs, like Palia, and stuff like that, where, maybe there's, like, a little bit more player-driven, And maybe there's something to be said for an MMO that is... it's more targeted in what it wants to do, which means it will have a great amount of intrinsic value to a small amount of people, and it'll just continue forever as a niche hit. And I think about like even OSRS, does it actually have an aspect of that? EVE Online, does it have an aspect of that? Is that purely just people going to get a bigger ship and a bigger ship and a bigger ship? Not exactly. If you actually think about how aspects of EVE work, I mean, like Bob and Toft in our guild, they seem to do that because they genuinely enjoy playing industry in that. Yep. And it's like maybe EVE is like, spreadsheets in space, total crack to the small amount of people that really appeals to. But it's like maybe they don't have to do all of those extra things because it just appeals to that base group of people. Which then sort of makes you think, like, if you always just try to grow, out and out and out by making something that's like more and more and more, I don't want to say addicting because I'm kind of, it's an iffy language to use with games, you know what I mean? But start using all those techniques, it's like, yeah, shit, do you kind of like sacrifice some intrinsic to sort of get more people strong along? And these are all just very big, complex topics to talk about where it's not really about blaming designers. It's like, oh shit, in retrospect, what have we done? Should we have thought about this earlier? Mm-hmm. People then think of the GDC talk from the ex-WoW dev about the overjustification effect. Mm-hmm. So it's big things everywhere. Big things everywhere.
It's a massive thing everywhere. And I think, obviously, there's a lot to take in. But, I mean, I know for a fact, I know what I'm going home to do. I'm going home to play Bayonetta because I think that game is cool. I'm not going to log into no soul-sucking, extrinsically motivated game. Am I going to play that until I get the platinum trophy? Maybe.
Yeah, like I'm going to go home and relax tomorrow. I'm going to play a bunch of FF14, and it's almost entirely because I know I'm close to Heavensward, and everybody tells me that's very good, and I'm like, well, I think I'll be intrinsically motivated to play that because it seems to have an absolute banger of a story.
Certainly does.
And for me, actually, it's an interesting thing where in JRPGs, I've never really got super into them because me and turn-based combat systems, other than, of course, the greatest JRPG ever made, Lord of the Rings, The Third Age.
Yep.
It's just like, for me, even Lord of the Rings, The Third Age, like, I soldiered through it because I wanted to run around in Middle-earth. That was it. But, I think about that, like, I've generally bounced off those combat systems, so for me, it's like, I'm kind of getting into a genre. Yeah. It's why I'm actually actively very excited to actually get around to playing the FF7 remake, because I think it's got a combat system I'll enjoy a lot, and everybody says that's some great shit, so I'm excited.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, interesting stuff, and it's like when I think about a new thing going on in the World of Warcraft, for me, it's like the latest iteration of the Timeless Isle is not mega interesting, because I feel like I've sort of done that before. Yeah. Horrific Visions, I did find those to be intrinsically motivating, but I got frustrated by all of the things they put up to me actually getting in them and the limitations. Maybe the Trial of Ascent or the Path of Ascension is something I'll be intrinsically motivated to do because, as you said to me when you first did it, it does have a bunch of inherently fun gameplay, it just obviously has issues over time because it didn't get as much love and care as it should have. So when I think about me playing World of Warcraft, it's like that's why I'm excited for a new dungeon or for a new bit of story or for a new big thing.
Content.
Because it's like, that's content, that's a thing for me to go and do on my character. Yeah. Interesting. So I guess that's maybe the way to end it.
I think so.
To think about.